He forgot my birthday, our anniversary, even the way I used to light up when he paid me the smallest bit of attention. I waited for him to see me again until I realized he never would. Then one night, someone else told me I was beautiful. And I actually believed it. My husband didn't notice my change until he saw me smiling at my phone. "Who are you talking to?" he asked. I looked up and whispered, "Someone who actually wants to talk to me." His eyes darkened, and that's when he knew he had already lost me. I, 44 female, have never posted here before. I'm not really one of those people who talks about their personal stuff online, but I think I need to let this out somewhere. Maybe because I'm starting to realize how far gone things are. Maybe because I don't feel like I exist in my own house anymore. I've been married to Mark, 47 male, for 17 years. We live in the suburbs outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. Quiet neighborhood, trees everywhere, the usual backyard setups with patio furniture and half-dead grills. Our house looks just like all the others on our street. We have 2 kids, Jake is 15, Ellie is 12. They're good kids. And honestly, they're the only reason I stuck around as long as I did. It's hard to walk away when your whole world looks like a family photo on the fridge. But lately, I look at that photo and wonder where I went. When we first got together, I thought Mark was everything. He was smart, funny, had that confident way of talking that made people want to listen. I met him in college at UNC Chapel Hill. He was studying business, I was majoring in education. We'd spend hours talking about nothing, lying on the campus lawn, drinking bad coffee from the student union. He made me feel seen. Like really seen. I didn't grow up with much. My parents fought a lot. I was used to being the background noise. Mark was the first person who actually made me feel like I mattered. He used to look at me like I was some kind of miracle. Fast forward to now, and it's like I've disappeared. Not all at once. It happened slowly. Quietly. It started with the little things. He used to kiss my forehead every morning before work. Then he stopped. He used to leave little notes on the counter. "Get some rest. You looked cute today." Gone. He stopped noticing when I changed my hair. When I started wearing less makeup, he didn't say anything. When I stopped wearing any, he didn't say anything either. I started wondering if he even looked at me anymore. Then he forgot my birthday. That was 2 years ago. I waited all day. He didn't say a word. I made dinner. Set the table. Lit candles. Not because I thought he'd remember, just because I needed something to feel different. He came home late. Said work had been crazy. Ate the dinner I made. Barely looked up from his phone. I finally said, "You forgot my birthday." He blinked, looked up, and said, "Wait, today." No apology. No hug. No card the next day. Nothing. I cried in the bathroom that night with the fan on so the kids wouldn't hear. A few months after that, he forgot our anniversary. 17 years, just gone. I reminded him at lunch the next day. He looked blank, like I was speaking another language. "I've just had a lot on my plate," he said. I told him I understood. I didn't. After that, I stopped reminding him of anything. I started sleeping with my back to him. I stopped asking him to come to the kids' school plays. I stopped cooking his favorite meals. And still, he didn't notice. I don't think he ever cheated on me physically. I'm not saying that to defend him, just being honest. I never saw any weird charges, no lipstick on collars, no late night calls. But he cheated emotionally. He left me alone in the middle of the marriage, and I don't know when he made that choice. He stopped talking to me like I was a person. I became the thing that handled the bills, the kids' schedules, the laundry. I'd try to start conversations and get one-word answers. Or worse, distracted while he scrolled on his phone. One day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. No spark. No warmth. Just tired eyes and lines I didn't remember earning. That was around the time I joined this Facebook group for local women, moms in Raleigh sharing tips and venting about everything from schools to stretch marks. It was nothing serious. But one post about a bakery changed everything. I made this dumb little post about how this bakery downtown had the best strawberry tart I'd ever had. Just trying to have a little joy. I hadn't laughed in weeks. Then someone named Alex, not his real name, commented, "That tart is life-changing. Pair it with their cold brew and you'll forget your own name." I smiled. I actually smiled. The way you do when someone gets your sense of humor. I replied. He replied. We started messaging. It was innocent. At first. He wasn't creepy. He didn't hit on me. We talked about pastries. Then books. Then music. Then what kind of person we used to be before life started piling up. He told me he taught high school music in Durham. Said he played jazz guitar on the weekends in little bars no one had heard of. He sent me a clip of his trio playing this Miles Davis cover in a room full of string lights and red walls. I listened to it 3 times. He asked me if I still did anything creative. I told him I used to paint. He said, "Why'd you stop?" I didn't have an answer. So the next day, I found my old watercolor set buried in a box in the garage. It smelled like dust and old dreams. I started painting again. Just little things. Flowers, a tree in the backyard, the cup of tea I made in the mornings. And every time I finished something, I sent a photo to Alex. He always replied. Always noticed the details. Always said something kind. Mark never noticed the paintings hanging in our bedroom. He never noticed when I started brushing my hair before bed again. Or when I bought new earrings and wore them to the grocery store. He never noticed when I smiled again. Not until that one night. I was sitting on the couch, kids upstairs, the TV playing something I wasn't really watching. I got a message from Alex, a voice message. Just him talking about how he saw this flower that reminded him of one I painted. Said something like, "You're the kind of person who sees beauty that others miss." I smiled. A full, warm, real smile. Not the kind you fake for photos. The kind that sneaks up on you. That's when Mark walked in. He saw me smiling at my phone and stopped. "Who are you talking to?" he asked. I didn't panic. I didn't hide the screen. I didn't scramble to make something up. I looked up at him and said, "Someone who actually wants to talk to me." His face changed. Not anger. Not hurt. Just blank. Like he didn't understand. Like he didn't know how we got here. He walked out of the room. Never brought it up again. I slept in the guest room that night. Said it was his snoring. 2 weeks later, I told him I needed space. I couldn't keep pretending. He just said, "Okay." That was it. No fight. No crying. No begging. Just, "Okay." I moved into a small townhouse in Cary 2 months ago. The kids go back and forth. I still do all the school pickups and doctor appointments. Mark still handles most of the finances. We're civil. Cordial. Cold. Alex helped me move. He brought a sunflower in a jar. Said it reminded him of how strong things can grow from broken places. I'm not with Alex. Not in the way you think. We talk. We walk. He listens. He makes me feel human. Some nights I lie awake and wonder if I should have left sooner. Other nights I wonder if I gave up too fast. But then I remember all the birthdays I spent alone. All the nights I stood in front of the mirror hoping he'd say something. Anything. And I know the truth. He didn't lose me the night he saw me smiling at my phone. He lost me long before that. He just didn't notice. It's been a little over 4 months since I moved out. At first, it felt like breathing for the first time in years. I'd sit in my quiet little townhouse in Cary, no TV in the background, no shoes by the front door, just the sound of my own thoughts. It was peaceful and terrifying at the same time. Alex came by sometimes. Never uninvited. He'd bring fresh bread from a local bakery or these terrible kombuchas he insisted I try. I'd roll my eyes and drink them anyway. We never crossed any lines. We didn't even hold hands. But the air between us was warm. Safe. I still handled the kids' stuff, school, dentist, birthday gifts. Mark stayed on top of the bills and pretended everything was fine. He told his friends we were working things out. That was a lie. I never agreed to that. Then one morning, Ellie got in the car and said, "Daddy said you're seeing someone else." I nearly drove off the road. I pulled over, turned around in the seat, and asked her, "When did he say that?" "Last night." I asked if you were coming to my recital next week, and he said, "Probably, unless she's off with her boyfriend again." I didn't even know how to respond. My chest was tight. My hands shook on the steering wheel the whole drive to school. It wasn't just a jab. It was a seed. One he was planting in their heads. I texted him when I got home, "Don't talk to the kids like that." He replied, "If the shoe fits." That night, I cried in the shower for 45 minutes. I kept the water scalding hot, like it would burn off the anger. I wasn't even mad that he was talking about me. I was mad he used them to do it. Dragged them into something they never asked for. And the worst part? I wasn't seeing anyone. Not really. Alex and I had feelings, sure. But we hadn't crossed that line. And now, I didn't even know if I could anymore. Not without giving Mark more to twist. The next week, Jake didn't come to dinner. Said he had plans. Ellie stayed quiet the whole night. Wouldn't look at me. I knew what was happening. He was turning them. Slowly, softly, painting himself as the one left behind. I wanted to scream. Wanted to call him and tell him everything, how long I'd felt invisible, how many nights I stared at the ceiling wondering if I was going insane. But I knew it wouldn't matter. He'd already rewritten the story in his head. I was the villain now. The one who left. The one who smiled at her phone like a teenager and destroyed her family for some guy with a guitar. One afternoon, I stopped by his place to drop off Ellie's asthma meds. He was in the driveway. He looked up and said, "You look different." I said, "I am different." He squinted like I'd just insulted him. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "I know you've been talking to that guy." I didn't say anything. Didn't flinch. I just handed him the meds. He shook his head. "You think he really wants you? After everything?" That one hit like a punch. I turned, Walked back to my car. Got in, started the engine. Then I saw it, him in the rear view, just standing there. Like he expected me to come back. Like this was just some phase I was supposed to snap out of. That night, I finally told Alex I couldn't do this halfway anymore. If we were going to keep talking, I needed to be honest. With him, with myself, with everyone. He asked what I meant. I told him I wanted to stop hiding. That I wasn't ashamed of what we had, even if it hadn't turned physical. That if the kids asked, I'd tell them the truth, that he was a friend. A kind one who reminded me I was still alive. He was quiet for a second, then said, "Are you sure? Because this gets real fast." I said, "It's already real." But I wasn't ready for how fast it would really get. 2 days later, I got a call from Ellie's school. She got into a fight with another girl. I rushed there in a panic, heart in my throat. When I got there, her face was streaked with tears. She kept saying I didn't mean to. She said you cheated on Daddy. She said you broke our family. I froze. Turns out Mark had started telling other people his version. And one of those people had a daughter in Ellie's class. I drove her home, sat her on the couch, and told her everything. The simplest version, anyway. That her dad and I grew apart. That I felt lonely for a long time. That I never wanted to hurt anyone, and I certainly didn't run away with some guy. That I was just trying to remember how to be me again. She asked me, "Do you love Dad?" I said I did. For a long time. She asked, "Do you love Alex?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. But here's where it gets messy. The next day, Mark showed up at my door. Didn't knock. Just walked in like he still had the right. He slammed his keys on the counter and said, "You're filling their heads with lies." I stood still. Calm. I didn't say anything that wasn't true. "You destroyed this family," he said, voice shaking. "You're the one who left. You're the one who cheated emotionally. You're the one who replaced me with some loser in a jazz bar." I said, "I waited years for you to notice me. You didn't even remember my birthday. You forgot our anniversary. You forgot me, Mark." He leaned forward. "And this is what you replaced me with? Some guy with a hobby and a flannel shirt." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. "You replaced me first," I said. "With silence. With work. With your phone." He didn't say anything. Just stood there, breathing hard, eyes darting around like he was looking for the person I used to be. But she wasn't there anymore. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I want full custody." That was the twist I didn't see coming. Not because I thought he wouldn't try it, but because deep down, I think I thought he didn't care enough to. Now he's playing dirty. And I don't know how far he'll go. Mark saying, "I want full custody," changed everything. It didn't sound like a request. It sounded like a warning. I stared at him and said, "You think you can erase me?" He didn't blink. "I think the court should know what kind of mother walks out on her family to date some stranger she met online." I felt something snap inside me. Not break. Snap. Like a cord that had been pulled too tight for too long. I said, "I didn't walk out. I crawled out of a marriage you abandoned years ago." He walked out without another word. The next week, I got an official letter from his attorney. He was filing for full custody of Jake and Ellie, claiming I was emotionally unstable, that I was introducing unsafe people into their lives, that I had neglected our kids by pursuing an inappropriate relationship during a separation. It felt like someone gut-punched me. I sat on the kitchen floor of my townhouse with the letter in my lap and sobbed. The kind of sob that feels like it comes from your spine. It's not pretty. It's not controlled. It's just pain coming out however it can. He was doing exactly what I feared. Weaponizing my healing. I called a lawyer. She was calm, professional, and honest. She said, "The good news is, no judge is going to give him full custody without real evidence. The bad news? This is going to get ugly." And she was right. The next few weeks were a blur of emails, affidavits, parenting evaluations, financial disclosures. I had to turn over therapy notes, call old neighbors for character references, go through years of texts just to prove I was present in my kids' lives. Meanwhile, Mark was playing a role. He was involved dad. Signed up to coach Jake's soccer team. Started showing up to every school function in a crisp shirt, smiling wide, shaking hands. He even volunteered at Ellie's middle school fundraiser, baking cookies and handing out coupons for his business. People started treating him like the victim. I couldn't even recognize him anymore. And here's where the twist really comes in. About 2 months into the custody battle, I get a call from a blocked number. I almost didn't answer. But I did. The voice on the other end said, "Hi. I'm not sure how to say this. But I think we need to talk. It's about Mark." It was a woman. She sounded nervous. Young. My stomach turned. Her name was Callie. She worked as a freelance consultant. Met Mark through a small business networking group. At first, just emails and coffee meetings. Then, dinners. Then, more. She said she didn't know he was still married until after they'd slept together. He told her you two were separated, but living together for the kids, and that I was emotionally checked out. Sound familiar? I didn't say much. Just listened. She said she found out the truth when she saw a Facebook post about Jake's birthday. A picture of Mark, smiling in our old kitchen, holding a cake with Jake and Ellie. That didn't look like a separated dad, she said. So I did some digging. She wasn't calling to apologize. She wasn't calling to stir the pot. She was calling because she was angry. Felt used. Lied to. She said, he made me feel crazy when I questioned things. Now I think he's been doing that to you a lot longer. I thanked her. Hung up. Then I sat there and laughed. Laughed because it was so stupid and predictable. Because while he was accusing me of being unstable, immoral, unfit, he had been cheating the entire time. It made sense. The random late nights. The business trips that popped up last minute. The shift in how cold he got once I started pulling away. I thought he was just tired of me. Turns out, he was already replacing me. I called my lawyer. She said, we can use this. But I didn't want revenge. Not really. I just wanted the truth out. So we did it by the book. Submitted communication logs. Statements. Timeline comparisons. I didn't smear him. I didn't go public. But I stopped playing small. And then something else happened I wasn't ready for. Jake found out. He overheard something at school. Some kid made a joke about your dad's girlfriend. He came home, slammed the door, and shouted, so it wasn't mom who cheated? It was you. I wasn't even in the house. Mark told me later that Jake lost it. Screamed. Punched a wall. Said he felt like an idiot for believing everything his dad said. Jake called me that night. He didn't say much. Just, I'm sorry. I told him it wasn't his fault. That I loved him. And then I cried again. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. But the biggest twist? Mark showed up at my door 2 days later. Not yelling. Not defensive. He looked tired. More than I'd ever seen. He said, I messed up. I didn't invite him in. He said, I didn't think you'd actually leave. I said, I didn't think you'd try to ruin me. He rubbed his face. I didn't mean to. I panicked. I thought if I lost the kids, I'd lose everything. I stared at him. You already did. And then, in a quiet voice, he said, do you still love me? I froze. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because part of me wanted to ask the same question back, even if I already knew it. I said, no. I love who you used to be. But I don't know this version of you. And I don't want to. He nodded. Turned to leave. Then he looked back and said, he's not better than me, you know. I said, he doesn't have to be. He just has to see me. Then I closed the door. And I swear, I could finally hear myself breathe again. A week after that conversation at the door, things felt quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm you don't see coming. The court date for the custody hearing was approaching fast. Everyone was walking on eggshells, the kids, my parents, even Alex. He kept his distance. Respectful, supportive, but distant. Like he knew this wasn't about him anymore. And he was right. Then came Ellie's school showcase. She was playing violin. Had been practicing for weeks. It meant the world to her. She asked both of us to come. So we did. Mark showed up in a navy button-up shirt like he was dressing for court. I wore a sweater she gave me last Christmas. We sat in the same row, separated by 3 empty chairs. I could feel his presence next to me like heat. Halfway through the performance, I turned and caught him looking at me. He mouthed, talk after. I didn't nod. But I didn't say no either. After the performance, we were all in the school gym where they had cookies and plastic cups of lemonade. The kids were bouncing around, talking to their friends and teachers. That's when it happened. Mark walked up to me. Jake and Ellie were a few feet away, helping themselves to cookies. He said, we need to stop this. The lawyers. The custody fight. The stories. I said, you started the stories. He lowered his voice. I was angry. You were cruel. He clenched his jaw. Fine. I was cruel. But I don't want to keep doing this. There was a long silence between us. Then I said something I wasn't planning to. I know about Callie. His face went pale. Like I'd reached inside him and pulled something loose. You think I'm the one who destroyed everything? I said. You were cheating before I even left. I didn't find someone new, I found myself again. You found a side piece. That's when the air shifted. Jake had heard me. He was standing behind Mark. Holding a cookie. Eyes wide. Wait. What? I closed my eyes. Jake, he dropped the cookie. So all this time, you said she broke up the family? You made her look like the bad guy. Mark's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Jake looked back and forth between us. You lied. You lied to me. To Ellie. To everyone. Ellie came over, confused. What's going on? Mark tried to reach for Jake's arm. It's not that simple, Jake pulled away. No, it is simple. You're a liar. People were watching now. Other parents. Teachers. The principal. It wasn't a screaming match, it was worse. It was quiet, but every word landed like a punch. Ellie started crying. I don't understand. I crouched beside her and held her face in my hands. Sweetheart, none of this is your fault. Mark just stood there. Still. Silent. Looking like a man who had finally seen the cost of his lies all around him and realized it was him who lit the match. Jake turned to me and said, "Can we just go?" So we did. We left the showcase early. I drove the kids home in silence. Ellie cried softly in the back seat. Jake stared out the window, his jaw tight. That night, Mark didn't call. Didn't text. The next morning, I woke up to a long email. No excuses. No denial. Just, I messed everything up. I said things I can't take back. I turned our kids against you. And I hurt them in the process. I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm stepping back from the custody fight. You don't have to fight anymore. I'll do joint, whatever you want. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer. That weekend, Alex came by. I opened the door, and he just stood there, eyes searching mine. I heard, he said. Online mom group. Word gets around. I laughed through my nose. Of course it does. He looked nervous. Do you still want me around? I leaned against the door frame. I don't know. And that was the truth. Because my heart was cracked open in too many places. I didn't know if I was ready to build something new with anyone yet. Even someone kind. Even someone safe. So I said, you were there when I needed someone to remind me I wasn't invisible. That matters. But I need time. Not because of you. But because of me. He nodded. No drama. No pressure. Just, okay. I'll be here. And then he left. The next few weeks passed slowly. Quietly. No court. No lawyers. Just healing. Jake forgave me first. He started texting more. Coming over after school. Sitting next to me on the couch and asking for help with math again, even though I was never good at it. Ellie took longer. She'd been hurt deeply. But one day, she slipped a drawing under my bedroom door. It was of our townhouse. Our garden. Me, holding a paintbrush. She'd drawn it from memory. I hung it on the fridge. One night, a few months later, I was out on the porch, painting a little pot for the herb garden. It was quiet. Peaceful. A breeze carried the smell of basil and cut grass. Jake was upstairs. Ellie was humming in the kitchen. The windows were open. And I realized something. I didn't feel hollow anymore. Not whole. But not lost either. Not waiting for someone to save me. Not hoping to be seen. Just me. Finally. Fully. I picked up the brush and kept painting. Some things break slowly. So slow you don't notice the cracks. But when they finally fall apart, it's loud. Painful. Exposing. But sometimes, that's what it takes to start again. Not for someone else. Not even for your kids. But for you. I don't know what comes next. But I know this. I will never be invisible again.